Hello, it's the Happy Healthcare Professionals live show. It's Wednesday. It's my favorite part of the week. I love this part of the week. I hope that wherever you are, wherever you're listening from, because this show goes live on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and also on YouTube. I hope you're well. And do say hi in the comments if you're watching live. I don't always know how many people are watching this, by the way. So it's always nice to see comments from people. Today's show, I'm really excited about because we are talking about leadership again, but we are talking about it from the perspective of us as leaders. What's the successful blueprint for us to become successful pharmacy leaders, right? What does that look like? It's about helping others to find their inner leader. And this is what we're going to be talking about today. And I've got an amazing guest with me today. I've got a really, really esteemed colleague, and I have so much respect for this guy. Minesh is a pharmacist who has literally spent years working in pharmacy and from so many different angles. He's worked in hospital, he's worked in community pharmacy, he's worked in industry, and he is now the chief pharmacist for a couple of PCNs in Solihull. And I was telling him as I was going on live, I was like, you have done so many things and you have achieved so many things. He's an honorary lecturer. He is a tutor. He has supported so many pharmacists along their journey. And I am so excited about having this discussion with him because every single time I speak to him, I learn something new. And I'm sure that you will too. So without further ado, let me bring Minesh on screen. Hi, Minesh.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Thank you so much. I'm good, thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and thank you for all your viewers for taking their valuable time out to come and listen to me today. I know they could be doing other things, spending time with their family, going to the gym or whatever, but I am really, really grateful. So thank you so much for your time.
Minesh, this is what I absolutely love about you, because you have done so much and you kind of done it all without fanfare. And that's what, and you do it so humbly. And that's what I've always really admired about
Thank you.
So describe your pharmacy journey.
Okay, pharmacy journey. So originally I did a small stint in hospital community pharmacy. I've still got the microchip in the back of my neck, working for a large multiple, and went on to various relief roles, management positions within that organization. And then I think it was a bit of an awakening. I decided to then jump ship and then join the pharmaceutical industry. And I can honestly say that was probably one of the best experiences I had. I learned so much around emotional intelligence, negotiation, influencing, communication. All those skills are so inherent within leadership. But time came where I got married to my beautiful wife, and traveling was getting a bit too much. So reality and life kind of kicked in. Yeah. And I took up a role close to home within working for what it was then a care trust, which progressed onto a primary care trust and then onto a CCG within general practice. And I learned a lot of my trade that I have done now for the last 10 years, working for these various commissioning organizations within general practice as well. Amongst that, I did various pieces of voluntary work for the Royal Pharmaceutical Society at a local branch level, decided to become prominent member of various committees locally to support our profession, to drive our profession forward also. And, more recently, I've taken a senior honorary post at a local university, School of Pharmacy there, and a clinical tutor at another university within the Midlands as well. So, my experience is very broad, but I've started to take on this really new, exciting opportunity for the last 18 months. And I'm one of the global leads for leadership development at the International Pharmaceutical Federation. And I'll come on to discuss one of the pieces of work that we're doing a little later on. And I think that that's been a real eye-opener globally to see how many leaders we've got out there within our profession. And that's got to be a real key moment for me in my career so far, to be able to connect with someone in Nigeria, to connect someone in India, to China, to Bali, to people in Washington. It's absolutely phenomenal, and I'm really grateful for this opportunity.
Amazing. I mean, I think when we talk about leadership, and I want to share a story about myself, because I think as pharmacist, I certainly never saw myself as a leader. And it took me a long time to come to terms with that. And often, I've taken on managerial roles, I've taken on leader roles, and, often stepped into these roles feeling like a bit of an imposter, right? But then also feeling like, am I doing this right? You're constantly asking yourself, am I doing this right? Have I, when I look back, I think I could have said that differently. I could have handled that situation differently. I should have been more attentive, or maybe I should have been more compassionate, And I say this because I think a lot, when you're working in that kind of environment, the people that you're managing are looking up to you, right? They're looking up to you for direction. They're looking up to you as a role model. And sometimes we can feel like we don't have all the tools and all the skills to be able to do that job effectively. And I really want you to talk about that experience for you, because I am sure that you've had that experience at stages in your career.
Absolutely. And one of the things I've got to really kind of admit is I weren't kind to myself when I was trying to reflect on how I behaved, or what I said, that email I sent, or how I managed that meeting, how I managed how I led that person within that team. And when you start to, when those kind of things hit home, you start to think, what, I weren't kind to myself. I actually did the best that I could actually do or be, almost. And it takes me back, and I want to share something with you guys. So these are my grandfather's glasses, and they're probably about 45 to 50 years old. And my grandfather was a contractor in construction back in East India. And I've always felt that he's been the most inspiring person in my life as a leader. And I started to think about, what am I going to talk about on this show? And I literally just put these on, and I thought, I'm looking through the lens of a leader, believe it or not. And by doing that, I started to think that, what, I have hope, I have chance, I have this opportunity. We're in this rat race, but it's not going to be a rat race if you can actually break out and start to realize your own potential, your own potential and ability to serve, and to be kind to yourself in that process. I think far too often we are very harsh, and we kind of get caught up in that, and we start to become a bit more introverted, and in some instances potentially explode. And you think, what, I could have handled this better. But some of the key things to what's made me reflect and realize is having a good coach, a good mentor, providing, as a leader, providing myself an opportunity to listen to what I'm doing, but to also listen to others as well. And as a consequence of doing that, I create this trusted environment. And trust is so important to whatever organization you work with, whatever team you work with, and as an individual as well. You've got to, we have to trust ourselves as well, to have that confidence and belief as well. And in doing so, the key inherent thing here is that you're beginning to learn. And as a consequence of that learning, you become even more empowered to be able to have confidence in your leadership. And when people talk to me about is how do you become this leader, I always say to them is start small, start to build up, and start to think about being kind to yourself, being reflective, and not being critiques. Don't be overcritical. Find yourself a good coach, find yourself a good mentor, find an opportunity to listen to others, but to also listen to yourself and find the opportunity to learn.
Yeah, you know what's so much in there about finding those opportunities to learn, finding those, and what you said about not being overcritical. That's such, I think we all have tendencies to be overcritical on ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And I know for myself, one of the things that I've always, I think I just naturally enjoyed by being a leader was having the opportunity to understand someone else. I think that's actually a real privilege.
Yeah.
When you're a leader, to be given the opportunity to spend time with someone else and actually understand them, that's where I feel like we become better leaders ourselves by doing that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Kind of like by osmosis, so to speak.
Yeah. I mean, there's been times where, people have got upset. People just wanted to have a bit of time out and a chat. You spend taking your time out in your day, that valuable time, and giving it to them. That's an investment. It's almost like this unconscious investment that you're putting in. And it's so, so important for you to take that time out for them. And that I believe that is good leadership. Because I remember my manager that was previous, and who's also my mentor, she would take time out, and whenever I wanted to, just kind of like, what, I'm not having the best day, but I need to check in with myself and just make sure I'm doing what is right. She would take the time out, and she wouldn't, how can I say, rebel against that or say, no, I'm too busy for that. So invest in time. Time is so important, and invest in your teams. And when you start when I talk about building blocks, it's small little things like that kind of awaken that inner leader, and you start to understand and you start to learn because you're starting to listen.
Yeah, definitely. One of the things that came to mind when you were talking about that to me is that we often, when we are in leadership positions, and we feel that kind of fear, there is that fear, right? If there's anyone that's watching this who is a leader, who perhaps is reflecting on themselves and saying, do you know what? I'm not doing things right. What would you say to them in terms of, what steps can they take, right?
Yeah. It's a really interesting point here around people's anxieties to really start to talk up and speak up and having that spotlight. One of the things you're going to have to completely digest and completely get is when you become a leader, you're going to be public facing. You're going to have to be out in the open. You're going to have to get out there and show emotion to be able to engage people, and failure, being open and honest about the fact that, when a project doesn't go well, and now we were talking earlier on, Kamal, that 60% of projects fail in the system, irrespective of how good your leaders are. So that's a real high percentage. But it's also understanding that even though, you're going to have to start to get out in the spotlight, you're going to have to also understand and create this kind of good company as well. So the people around you have to come with you on that journey and create this public profile, this presence that you actually need. And that is so, so important. But when you have self-doubt in yourself, you should always take the opportunity to step away. And I call it a coffee break almost. Is take that coffee break to be able to reflect on your actions and how they're actually transcending and having a ripple effect on your team and more importantly, the patient. And it's interesting you spoke about, self-promotion earlier on. All this social media situation around, people starting to self-promote themselves. I have no issues with that. Please choose what people, whatever they feel comfortable with. But one thing I would say is, please, if you do start to use social media, start talking about self-expression. Create a project from self-expressing rather than actually self-promoting. With due respect, self-promotion gets a little bit boring after a while.
Yeah.
Start talking about things that are upcoming, new, slightly controversial, but please be politically correct and sensitive to other people's views and opinions. But listen, I would say let's be creative about self-expression if you're going to use social media, and it's so important. And what is really quite interesting, I'm going to read this straight out. So William White's The Organization Man. So the most misguided attempt at false collectivization is the current attempt to see group as a creative vehicle. People very rarely think in groups. They talk together, they exchange information, they adjudicate, they make compromises, but they do not think, they do not create. So this goes back to what I was saying earlier. To awaken that inner leader, you're going to have to take that time out for yourself to be able to think about the ideas, to innovate, to give yourself that thinking space, to be able to support your team in the best possible way. Yes, we may be able to collaborate and collectively move that project forward, but you need that self space to be able to think of those ideas in the first place.
Yeah, that's a super, super important point. And I think for me, that was one of the biggest lessons that I learned when I went on my personal development journey, is that reflective time. Because if I look back to the time when I was a leader, a lot of it was, there was not time carved out to reflect. And that was detrimental to me. And also as a result, detrimental to my team,
And just imagine the impact that has on the patient.
Exactly, right? Because one of the things I hear the most when I speak to pharmacists in my line of work, the biggest thing that they come back to me with is my managers don't value me. My leaders don't care about what I think, right? I'm not given the opportunity to speak up. I'm not, I'm constantly given direction, but I'm not given autonomy.
Yeah.
And, that goes for, I can hand on heart say 99% of the time when I speak to people, it's one of those that they, that it's driving them away from their current, career option. And in many instances, and I say that from my own experience as well, it's a job I love. It's work I love. But it's the environment that I'm placed in that is preventing me from really breaking out,
It's an interesting one, is how many people actually get up in the morning and actually want to go to work and now actually wake up with a smile and think, yeah, I'm going to make the change today. And that's really interesting, because I personally believe that the things that are currently missing within leadership, within within our profession, it's a bit like all human beings want this sense of purpose, this aim, this belonging, and that's so important. But we forget to ask ourselves, what is my aim, what is my vision, what is my goal, what is my purpose? If we forget to think about those things, we run into a real big issue there. And one of the things that I wanted to mention on this show today, apologies, is that I've literally just set out we're looking at publishing at some point. I'm working with Howard University in Washington on a global leadership needs assessment. And this needs assessment was a survey sent out throughout the whole world to our pharmacy professionals to really ask them, well, what do you want? What is missing? What do you need to develop in the best possible way? This is not about being number one, but being the best possible person you can become. And, very much to the audience that are watching in today, please just watch out for that publication for as and when it becomes peer reviewed and published, because I think that's going to be really quite instrumental learning points. And the International Pharmaceutical Federation, I'm sure they'll be driving forward and taking the learnings from that to use it as a platform to be able to build upon successful education programs. And I hope one day I can come back on this show to talk about the outputs from that and maybe pick up some nuggets of knowledge around the world. And and that's so powerful. Things like influencing skills, negotiation, simple things like communication.
Oh my God.
How do I communicate effectively? We think that these things are actually inherent and actually taught at an undergraduate program, but they genuinely aren't taught in the most effective way to be able to implement them in real life settings, to be able to present to a board, to be able to even converse with a patient, to be able to converse with our peers, another healthcare professional. So that's going to be really important. And I think that's what was missing. I hope that study really drives forward the change in leadership, awakens other leaders to actually drive forward. But with that, I think the most important thing is to create a climate of trust. We need more trust within our profession, within our leaders. We don't want to be stepping on each other's toes. We know we need to know our limitations, but we need to collaborate. We need to be more collective in our leadership. There's a lot of talk around integrated care systems at the moment, and they are here and they are coming, so we need to start the journey now, because there's no point waiting for a government white paper, with due respect, or waiting for any bill to be passed. We need to start that journey now, because we know it's coming. So why don't we start to work collectively? Why don't we start to collaborate? Why don't we start to trust each other as one profession, one pharmacy profession, to move forward, and in turn be as inclusive as possible? We've got a diverse profession, everyone comes from all walks of life. So let's be inclusive. Let's not be kind of those people can't be part of this committee or this organization. Let's be as inclusive as possible to ensure that all views are representative. All views are representative. I look at various professional bodies and committees and organizations. How much is that leadership is actually representative of that professional body? How much is that leadership representative of the population that they serve? If that leadership doesn't understand that population or that committee or that membership, how on earth is it going to lead? How is it going to lead effectively? People aren't going to come on that journey.
It's one of the things. It's one of the very core reasons as to why we set up the BAME Female Pharmacist Leaders Network.
Absolutely.
Because we saw the gap. We've worked in places where the gap to us was glaringly obvious, and we're like, we're not going to stand for this anymore.
No, quite rightly.
And when you were saying about, on social media, it's not about self-promotion. It comes back to this point. It's actually about having an opinion.
Yes.
And being brave enough to talk about it.
Yes, absolutely.
Because if you stand for if you stand for something, then that's what makes you stand out. Right?
Yeah,
if you don't stand for anything, you're not speaking to anyone.
No.
And that's, I think, and it's not in a polarizing way. It's in a way where we're saying the status quo is no longer serving. So if the status quo is no longer serving, here's how we think, or we would like it to change. Right?
Absolutely.
And Manisha's commented about great leaders, mentors, and coaches are missing. Do you feel they're missing, Minesh?
I think great leaders, mentors, and leaders are there, but I guess it's a case of who you aspire to become, what lens you look through. My grandfather's glasses, and it's going out on the search and pursuit for them. There's various mechanisms. The NHS mentor scheme. There's the RPS. I've got one, and there are others. So I would almost, and I've got a self-confession. Actually, one of the most instrumental coaches I've had when I wanted to do a career jump was actually someone that was a consultant microbiologist working in the hospital trust, and they were phenomenal, just in terms of making me reflect on my own practice, my own behavior, how I wanted to kind of move up in my career, because I got to a stage where I was thinking, well, what next? And I would say, don't just, in terms of leaders, mentors, and coaches, don't just stick to our profession. Widen your horizon. You know, my previous boss went to an entertainment organization and spent some time with the CEO there, and the stuff that, you know, she'd learned around risk management was phenomenal. And I was thinking, you know what, we could actually apply that to healthcare settings. You know, there's books like by Atul Gawande, you know, that talk about the checklist. You know, that's come from an airline firm, you know, around how to make sure that we're following processes and procedures. And as pharmacists, we love a good SOP.
We love it.
We love a good SOP. So I would say cast your net further. Don't just look at our own profession. You know, speak to our medical colleagues. Speak to someone that is really driving forward business, private enterprise, entrepreneurship. People like yourself, Komal. You know, there you have a mentor. Get in touch with people like Komal, and I think, you know what, you could be inspired, and I'm pretty sure these people will definitely drive you to the success that you need to success that you need to get to. And I think it's about manifestation as well. So it's about being able to self-manifest your vision and your purpose almost. So I think those things are really important. Cast your net further. Don't just stick to
you know, I 100% agree with you on that, because I did that very thing, you know, and I got inspired by people completely outside of our profession, and I spent time with them, and that experience, because I spent some time doing an entrepreneurial startup course, that experience changed me, because I can honestly say it was only at that point did I start to begin to value myself. Because other people, you know, I was sat in a room, 45 people, and I'm the only healthcare professional sitting in this room. And, you know, for most of us, we'd find that super uncomfortable. And boy, was I uncomfortable about being in that space. But boy, did I learn a hell of a lot from those people, you know. And I think, you know, we've got to, as you said, cast our net wide and give ourselves the opportunity to do that.
Yes.
And I know you wanted to touch on this, because this is a really, really important point.
Yeah. This is the 3 Gs. I always like to come out with something like this, as you know. So give yourself time to think. We don't give ourselves enough time to kind of just zone out and think. We spoke about, you know, the focus on projects and what the white paper actually mentioned earlier on around, you know, you can be creative in teams, but sometimes that creativity needs to happen on your own. And don't be afraid of doing that. Piece of paper, a book, whatever, scribble, get your ideas down. Give yourself time to develop. So even though you've got your ideas, you need to develop them, and you need to develop yourself. And we don't give ourselves enough time to develop ourselves. Be selfish in that. Be self-servant in that. And that's so important. As pharmacists, we spend so much time serving others. We've also got to be able to serve ourselves. And that moves me on to the final G, which is give yourself time to look after your own health and well-being. So important. You know, the last 18 months coming up to 2 years have been really challenging for each one of us. You know, we need to make sure that our mental health, our health overall, and our well-being is protected, you know, is resilient, and we always kind of tune into our inner selves, and that's so vitally important. I can't stress that enough. I wish more organizations did stuff around well-being for our profession. And I know there's various support networks out there, but more, I still believe that more needs to be done. So yeah, 3 Gs. Give yourself. 3 Gs. It's about yourself. Yeah,
3 Gs. So, you know, give yourself that time to reflect. Give yourself that time to develop. You know, and explore your ideas, and give yourself the time for your own health and well-being. Right, the 3 Gs. I love that. And, you know, anyone watching today, that's going to be your take-home message, right? The 3 Gs, your take-home message. And that, that ultimately applies to us, whether we are leaders, whether we're working, just at the start of our careers, maybe,
Absolutely.
at any point in your life, we need to start developing these habits and these skills that actually are going to propel us in our careers, without a doubt.
Absolutely.
So before you go, what one thing do you do to keep you a happy healthcare professional for yourself?
So more recently, something that I hadn't been doing for a very long time is giving myself time to think. And that is exactly what I do. And it has genuinely changed my outlook on life. We live in such busy worlds. Please give yourself time. And then that's so important.
And how do you do that? Do you like carve out some time at the beginning or end of your day, or?
I actually put it in my diary at the beginning of each day. That is my time to think, to get my brain in order around, okay, what are my challenges for the day? That time just over a cup of coffee or a bit of herbal tea or whatever, just take that time out, half an hour. That's all you need from my take.
Yeah. Great advice, Minesh. I really, really appreciate your time today. I really appreciate you coming on, because I know how busy you are. And, I always love speaking to you. And, you always come with your pearls of wisdom, your 3 Gs.
Thank you.
I absolutely love it. And, where can people get in touch with you, Minesh, if they want to?
So via LinkedIn, so DM me, Minesh Parbat on LinkedIn. I'm also on Twitter at Minesh Parbat. That's my Twitter handle. Again, I'm not about self-promotion. You can see I don't have many followers or anything like that. I'm cool with that. But where I can self-express, I'm more than happy to do so. DM me, and that, let's have that conversation, and that's more important. LinkedIn, definitely.
Yeah, so do get in touch with Minesh. If anything and everything that he has talked about today has inspired you, it certainly inspired me. And thank you so much, Minesh, for your time. I really, really appreciate
it.
it.
I'm grateful.
I look forward to you coming back and talking about your paper.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
We could call it Awakening the Inner Leader 3.
Yeah, we can. Absolutely. Thank you. And I will see you soon. Thank you so much, Minesh. Bye.
Take care. Thank you. All the best.
So that was Minesh. I mean, every single time I talk to him, I learn something new. And if there's one thing that you are going to take away, or I hope that you take away from today's conversation, it is his 3 Gs. Give yourself that time to reflect, give yourself the time to develop your ideas, and give yourself time for your health and your personal health and well-being, which are so, so, so important. So I hope you enjoyed today's show. If you are watching this on the replay, then do drop comments and questions, and I will come back to you, and I'm sure Minesh will as well. And I will see you next week, 8 o'clock, for the Happy Healthcare Professionals live show. Take care. Bye.